Welcome to another episode of working on these rear tires of the Allis. Here I am trying to clean the tire the best that I could. I was really surprised. Watch whenever I pick it up. Look at the rust that was left behind on the inside of the tractor tire. And I know from some other people commenting on my videos and stuff, when you're messing around with these tires and whatnot, make sure there's nothing sharp around or inside the tire or inside the rim. Whenever you go to put the tube back in, it could, puncture your brand new tube, and obviously that's not something that I want to happen. So I'm trying to dry out the tire because obviously we don't want any water in it, and what I actually did is I used my little portable Milwaukee vacuum to suck out all the water, and it seemed to work pretty good. And I know Milwaukee is probably, you're not supposed to clean these things out with a garden hose, but hey, it works, right? So now we are putting the rim down into the tire, obviously, and before this step right here, you need to make sure that you're getting the direction right, where you want, how you want the tread going. And as you can see, this is for the right tire of the tractor because I have the V's going pointing forward in the tread, and that's the way that I want it. And just like that, I have the one side in. I've got to say that first side is always the most difficult one to get in because the rim's in the way. And now the problem is getting this big massive tube shoved through in between the rim and the tire. There's only about an inch gap in there, and I'll tell you what, it is kind of a nightmare trying to get this thing on there. I have to be, try to not puncture the tube, but you also have to get it in there, so I just keep working it around and whatnot. And obviously the rim is primed, and where the tube is going is painted black, so we shouldn't have any rusting problems with this rim for a very, very long time to come. And it was pretty hot the day that I was working on this. As you can see, the shirt came off, and I'm now working on the other side. And I learned when there's a couple things that you need to do when you put the this other side on. Try to work the bead around with the pry bars first, and then walk around it by standing on it, and then it'll be less work for you to have to put the rim on or work it over the rim. And then another thing you can do is put some dish soap. I have car washing stuff on in that spray bottle, and that stuff helps to slide the tire over the rim. And now we're just airing up the tire, and I've got to be careful doing this. There was one side of the bead that didn't seat, and sometimes those things can pop pretty loud and really kind of scare you a little bit because you're not expecting it. But what I did to help it seat onto the bead was I again put some more of that soap and stuff in, and I'm checking the tire pressure. I'm airing it up to about 15.5 psi, and I let it sit there for a couple days, and there doesn't seem to be any leaks whatsoever. So that's always a good sign when there's no leaks in the inner tube that you just put in. So I figured while I have the tire off of the Allis tire and rim, and this is all exposed, the final drives, the axle comes out here, and then a big gear. Well, there's a gear up here, and then there should be another gear here to run the wheel. And as you can see, it is pretty dirty, and I want to pull these bottom covers off and either have a look up inside, and I'd like to change the oil in them, because who knows when the last time the oil was changed in this. And I haven't done it to the other one yet, so I probably should have done this whenever this tire was off and whenever I was messing around with it.
But I figured, it's better. It's easier to do this all right now when everything is apart, without the tire being in the way, than it is to do this stuff when you have the tire in there. And I am pretty sure we are missing this bolt right here. Oh, yeah. So that is not a good sign, and I will probably replace that bolt with, or a plug of some sort. And I guess first things first, clean this thing up a bit, and then I'll try to pull this bottom cover off.
So I bought some of this stuff. It's called engine degreaser from Walmart. And I guess you heat up the engine, start it and let it cool for like 5 minutes or something, and then you spray this stuff onto the engine, and then it'll help clean everything, and then you just take a garden hose to the engine and whatnot, and it should make it clean. And I don't think I left that stuff on there long enough to let it work a lot, but this was obviously the right final drive of this tractor, and I was kind of debating whether I should do this or not. A lot of times with these old tractors and old equipment, they leak out their fluids, and then nobody checks them to add more or top off fluid, and whatever it may be. It's generally the transmission or the rear end. And I was worried that there wasn't any oil in these final drives, and surprise, surprise, there actually was. So I was pretty pleased to see that there was oil in there, and it was not milky or anything, so the oil actually looked pretty darn clean, which I was very pleased about. I was very happy to see that. And I'm just now cleaning the final drive. I wonder what would have caused all of this oil to somehow get onto this final drive. I don't know if there was a leak in the transmission or what the problem was. But I'm just cleaning the bottom cover here, and believe it or not, I did not get a video of this, but you could actually still see the machining marks on the gear of the big gear that runs the tire, not the little one up top, but the big one at the bottom. You could actually see the machining marks, which is very, very cool. And now I'm cleaning up everything, trying to get this tractor as clean as possible, and of course I'm scraping the gasket off. The old gasket was an old cork gasket, so who knows how long that was on there. Who knows, this could have been, they could have never changed the final drive oils. Who really knows, right? And I'm trying to, of course the gasket, split off on both halves, and I knew it was ruined then. So I figured I would just use some red high-temp RTV silicone to help seal everything, and that stuff seems to work pretty good. There's really no leaks that I know of right now. I'm trying to use up an old tube of the red RTV silicone before it goes bad, so I figured we'll use it on here first and try to use it up and get rid of it. I think those things are like $4, $5, $6, $7, $8, depending on where you get it at. So I mean, it's not cheap, but it's not expensive. But it is a must-have, and hey, it beats me having to go online and search for a specific gasket for this. And I try to put a healthy amount of the red RTV silicone on here just so that there's hopefully no leaks anywhere in it. I did spread it around with my finger a little bit, which is a good and a bad thing. I don't really know. I should have read the directions more, but surprise, surprise, the bolts on the bottom of this thing were actually, a lot of them were pretty loose. I don't know if the previous person that did this never tightened it back down again or whatnot, but I made sure I tightened them, and there wasn't any missing, which is really surprising, because, you know, the bolts are up and in, and, you know, all it takes is a little bit of vibration, and then the bolt will just fall out and you'll lose it. So I'm making sure I'm tightening everything real good, and there is a plug on the side. I don't know if I got a video of that or not. I learned that there's two threaded bolt holes up top. I pointed that out earlier in the video, and those are actually they don't do anything. There's no hole inside the final drive for anything to get in there, so I thought they might have been a breather hole, or I don't know, somehow someone never replaced the cap, but it's odd that they were both threaded. There's one on the front and there's one on the back of the final drive. So I guess there's no point in me putting a bolt in it if it doesn't really do anything. Maybe it was to add weights of some sort. I'm not real sure. But I'm putting in the oil now, and I'm using 80W90 gear oil from Napa, and I've had pretty good luck with that stuff.
So I think that pretty much concludes putting this tire back on to the Allis, and the tire and rim together, and the inner tube in it, and fixing this tire and whatnot. I am glad this is sort of over with, and I'm glad I did the final drive also and change the oil in it. You know, I never know what's in these, in the final drives. If, you know, I don't even know what oil was in all this, or even if there was any oil. You know, I had to add like 3 gallons, something like that, of gear oil to the transmission whenever I bought this thing. So it doesn't hurt to check things like this, and a lot of the bolts up underneath it where the final drives were somewhat loose, so I cranked them down a little tighter than what they were. So there you go. We're, for the most part, done. All that's left is weighting this thing, and that'll be another day in and of itself. So hope everyone enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more, and hopefully we will see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching.